charisma doesn't always win elections. Our Dagan McDowell has that story.
It's hard to compete with a movie superstar in the image department. Gray Davis done in by the more magnetic Arnold Schwarzenegger. Some say Davis's chilly persona needed warming up long before the Terminator turned politician. But does a candidate need charm to win?
Charisma can decide an election. It can help you get your message out, but you need to have a message that people want to listen to.
President Reagan had personality to spare. So did Bill Clinton. Former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura's flashy image helped him get into office. The country's also had more subdued leaders, Jimmy Carter and the first President Bush. California's last two governors, Pete Wilson and George Deukmejian, lacked charisma. To voters, Bland can come across as competent and hardworking. However, some think the fact that Arnold is larger than life made him too big to beat.
He's got a great physique, and he looks like he could take care of almost anything. And before you get to the substance, you have a sense that he's going to be there and get the job done.
Gray Davis did get elected governor twice, but this time around, his lack of people skills and the state's financial problems helped do him in. Neil?
Dagan McDowell, thank you very much. Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger has vowed not to raise taxes on Californians, but will he be able to keep that promise? Julie Meyer-Wright says, yeah, he will. She is a member of Arnold's Economic Recovery Board, former trade secretary in California, and the president and CEO of the San Diego Economic Development Corporation. But Steve Wesley is not so sure. He is California's state controller. Steve, begin with you. You think he's got an uphill fight?
Well, I think it's going to be very tough for the new governor. And let's be honest, no one wants to see new taxes, especially in California. But when you're talking about an $8 billion budget deficit, and if the governor goes ahead and rescinds the vehicle license fee, he's going to be looking at a huge hole to fill. I will certainly help him do anything he can to fill it, but realistically, he is going to have his hands full.
All right, Julie, that vehicle license fee, which tripled the earlier fees, is a $4 billion price tag. You remove that, that's an extra $4 billion you have to come up with. Is he in a box?
Well, I think you look at the growth in state spending over the last 5 years of nearly 40%, and you can see that we need to get inside programs and understand what we can cut. One of the members of his Council of Economic Advisors said that when he acquires a company, something he does very successfully, he goes in line by line and understands every element of spending in the company so that he can make prudent decisions about what to cut. We need to do that in a highly compressed time frame, and frankly, it's going to take the active support of people like my friend Steve Wesley to make it happen.
Steve Wesley, the bottom line is, the dirty little secret about the governor in your state is that he doesn't have a lot of power in your state. He has a big bully pulpit, but very little beyond that. So what realistically can a Governor Schwarzenegger do?
Well, I think the first thing he's going to have to do is to reach across party lines. And let's be honest here, I think all of us in California are glad the recall's over. It's time to roll up the sleeves. We have to solve these problems as Californians. I want to see the governor be successful, and I plan to help him do just that. Julie,
do you think ultimately this governor is going to be forced to raise taxes?
I think his first priority has to be an intense focus on spending cuts. I would give you two things that I think are very important for us to consider. Number one is, if you look at federal welfare reform, we got inside that program, and that is how we made dramatic shifts in the cost of that program. We're going to have to do that with the 75% of the state budget that's caseload driven in health, welfare, corrections, and education. In addition to that, we have a whole series of non-budget things that we need to do to fuel the growth of the private sector in California so that we have revenues for the needed programs of government, and that's like workers' compensation.
All right, Julie Meyer-Wright, I want to thank you. Controller Steve Wesley, thank you both very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Neil.
Well, talk about a movie script. Try this one on for size. Embattled Democratic Lieutenant Governor vows to work with the Republican guy who just beat him, who's just down the hall. They've tried this kind of thing in the past, haven't they? Didn't always work. Will it this time? After this.
Let me offer some words of welcome to the man who will soon be our new governor. Arnold, you're very famous for making movies all over the world. I want you to feel free to continue doing that. Go where you like. Feel free to stay as long as you like. I'll be here keeping an eye on things.
That was supposedly a concession speech. Well, you know, Felix Unger and Oscar Madison have nothing on these guys. Can a losing lieutenant governor named Cruz make peace with a Republican actor, now governor-elect, named Arnold without driving each other crazy? It is not the first odd political relationship, nor is it the first business one. But it is tough, and if history is any guide, it will only get tougher. With us now, Doug Ray, professor at the Yale School of Management, and Daniel Mitchell, professor at UCLA's Anderson School of Management. Professor Mitchell, to you first, can these guys get together without driving each other crazy?
Well, they can get together, but I'm not sure that it's all that critical that they do. The lieutenant governor really doesn't have a lot of power in California. He's basically in waiting to become governor if something happens to the governor. It's a little bit like the vice president at the federal level.
Now, Jerry Brown had to deal with this, the prior California governor, with a Republican number 2. Everything that was hunky-dory then, I mean, Professor Ray, is it going to be hunky-dory now?
Well, the imbalance in power between a prominent California governor, and certainly this is going to be a prominent governor, and any lieutenant governor is going to get settled in the governor's favor. And I really don't think that Cruz Bustamante is the key obstacle here. I mean, I think the leadership of the California Assembly is a much more important focus for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You know, Thomas Jefferson had to deal with Aaron Burr this way, and I guess history is replete with these examples, but Professor Mitchell, Thomas Jefferson we knew was calling the shots. Is it fair to say that Arnold Schwarzenegger is calling the shots?
Well, he's got to develop a consensus mode of government. He's really got to work with people like Tom McClintock, who opposed him in the election. I think McClintock is a more critical person to work with than the lieutenant governor.
In other words, that the rank and file within his own party might be a big issue, right?
Yes. Davis had a 1/3 problem in the legislature with the Republicans. He's got a potential 2/3 problem with the Democrats. So he's got to include Democrats in his entourage. He's got to consult with them and work with them.
You know, Professor Ray, Abraham Lincoln had to work with a very pro-union Andrew Johnson, who later became president after Lincoln's assassination. And sometimes the number 2 can be sending a message, I'd like to be number 1, and that gets in the way of the number 1 getting his job done. Will it this time?
No, I really don't think Bustamante has many cards. I think Herb Wesson, who's Speaker of the Assembly, and Wilma Chan, who's Majority Leader, are much more likely to be in a position to call shots in disagreement with the governor.
Now, we should preface, gentlemen, that the governor in California does not have a great deal of power. It's very similar to the governor in Texas, and our president was, of course, that, where, you know, the legislature is only in session X number of months, and the president outside of, or the governor in this case, outside of using it as a bully pulpit, has very little flexibility. So, Professor Mitchell, how would you use that power?
Well, I'd go back to the history of California and Earl Warren, a Republican governor in the 1940s and early 1950s. Basically, he would take his case to the people. He would form study groups and task forces to look over programs that he wanted to promote. He'd hold hearings around the state, and then when he got into the legislature, there was already momentum going in favor of his policies. That's how he would do it, and I think the same thing should be true today.
That's very interesting. Doug Ray, you know, I've seen in corporate America all the time, the CEO bumps himself up to chairman, the new CEO comes in, and it's not always hunky-dory between them. Will it be that kind of relationship? Because Cruz Bustamante will feel, maybe in his case, look, I've been here longer, I'm a career politician, you're just a new entrant, you don't know the ropes, you don't know the legislative process, I do. And therein lies that sort of corporate board rub?
I think that's true only, really, if Governor Schwarzenegger's health gets to be in jeopardy. Because short of replacing the governor, Bustamante has no powers beyond casting a tie-breaking vote in the state Senate, and ties don't happen in that body.
Very interesting. Doug Ray and Daniel Mitchell, thank you, professors, both very much.
Thank you.